Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my Week 7 lineup review, recapping the Week 7 slate, talking about my lineups and the players that I was on, just doing a review of the whole slate in general. I did play 150 lineups on DK this week, so it's going to be pretty hard to go through every single lineup. I'll more talk about my exposures and the players I was on rather than touch all my lineups. But it was definitely a rough week for me, just missed on a lot of plays. As you can see in these top 3 lineups, I had Jermaine Kearse in so many lineups this week, and he put up 0 fantasy points. Willie Snead as well, I had in a lot of lineups, and he only put up 6.6. We'll talk about those players, though. Zeke, another guy. I did play 150 on FanDuel as well, so I'll try to talk about my exposure on FanDuel, go through some of those lineups, and then I'll recap my 10 lineups that I always play on Yahoo. And at the end, we will cover the Monday Night Football showdown slate between the Falcons and the Giants. I will do that at the end. So make sure you stay tuned for that if you are going to be playing the showdown slate tonight. But before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. It really helps me out, means a lot. And if you are new to the channel, if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. So let's go ahead and get started on DraftKings and talk about my DraftKings lineups. So like I said, I played 150. I played some lineups in the 20 max as well. I believe these top 20 lineups are my 20 max lineups, so we will cover these. As you can see, though, a lot of Jermaine Kearse this week on DraftKings. He was just so cheap. I projected him for a really good game, at least 6, 7, 8 targets, and he only got 2 targets, but he was on the field a ton. He played in 64 of the 71 snaps that the Jets obviously ran, or the offensive plays that they ran. I believe Sam Darnold threw the ball like 40-something times. It was somewhere around there. And Kearse only got 2 targets, so just a really disappointing day from Jermaine Kearse. I saw a lot of really sharp players on him, so I don't feel bad about playing Jermaine Kearse. I think he was a pretty good play. Just a play that didn't work out. Kind of the same with Willie Snead. I think Willie Snead was a little bit more thin than Jermaine Kearse. Jermaine Kearse was a better play than Snead, in my opinion. But if you went with Kearse, Snead, and Nick Chubb, who obviously became a really good option once the Carlos Hyde trade happened, if you played those 3 guys, it pretty much allowed you to do whatever you wanted. Like if you played, like in this lineup I went Mayfield and Njoku, then I had Chubb, Kearse, and Snead. This was sort of a cashy kind of lineup. And then that allowed me to get Zeke, allowed me to get Robert Woods, who is a really strong play with Cooper Kupp out. Todd Gurley obviously just continues to crush every single week. Gurley was one of my highest exposed players, so that kind of worked out. But the only way I was able to get Gurley in so many lineups was obviously from playing a ton of Jermaine Kearse and a ton of Willie Snead, who really disappointed. Nick Chubb, another guy, I mean, he was just too good of a play. He was too clear of a play. It made sense to go underweight in tournaments because you don't know what you're going to get from Nick Chubb. But if you played cash this week and didn't play Nick Chubb, you should probably rethink what you're doing. He was just too good of a play. Even though he only got 14 DK points, he was 3,600. He just allowed you to do so much in your lineups. I'm not even sure how many touches he got in general altogether. He got 18 carries, did get 2 targets but no receptions, rushed for 80 yards and a touchdown. So a mediocre day from Nick Chubb, but with the price tag, what it allowed you to do with the rest of your lineup, he was a really good option in my opinion. A guy you probably should have had a lot of exposure to. But we'll go through each position real quickly, talk about how I had my exposures there. So quarterback, it was Baker Mayfield, who I played in a lot of lineups, and that was okay. Mayfield wasn't great, but a lot of quarterbacks really didn't crush this week. But Mayfield was my highest exposed quarterback. At running back, it was mostly Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott. I had some McCaffrey. Those were kind of the guys I stuck to at running back. Mostly Chubb and Gurley, though. A receiver, besides Kearse and Snead being big busts for me, being the cheap guys I landed on, did have a lot of the Rams receivers, so Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. I thought both of them were pretty strong plays with Cooper Kupp out. Those were kind of the receivers I stuck to, at least like top 5 when it comes to ownership. Those were the guys I had the most of. Tight end was mainly David Njoku for me. He did have some George Kittle, but Njoku carried a lot of my ownership. I think over like 40% I had Njoku. Just thought he was a really good option. And then defense, I kind of really spread my ownership around. But I think my highest exposed defense on the week wound up being either the Colts or the Lions on DraftKings, just with how cheap they are with the matchup. Colts were getting to face the Bills at home. Lions were able to face Brock Osweiler, who I still think is a pretty bad quarterback. Even though the Lions were on the road, I really liked them with how cheap they were against Osweiler. But we'll just scroll through these lineups quickly. Did land on some Kirk Cousins in some of these 20 max lineups. But as you can see, just so much Jermaine Kearse. I feel like I almost played him in like every single one of my 20 max lineups, or at least close to it. I did have a lot of Adam Thielen, forgot to mention that. He was one of my highest exposed receivers. I did have Thielen in a lot of lineups with his 29 DraftKings points. Even though the win was a concern, I wasn't going to get off of Thielen. Guy's just too good of a receiver to get off of because of some wins. So stuck with Thielen, worked out. But yeah, these are my 20 max lineups. As you can see, really low scores. Just a disappointing week for me in general. Just missed on a lot of plays. A lot of guys I had high exposure to wound up putting up pretty bad games. So when that happens, you're going to have a rough week, and that was the case. But that's really it for DraftKings. I'm not going to be able to scroll through every single one of my lineups because I played like 150, so take a lot of time to go through all of them. But I'll just go ahead and tell you guys, was not a good week. Let's go ahead and move on to FanDuel. Played 150 on FanDuel as well. I managed to lose like $2. I pretty much just broke even on FanDuel. I did have some decent lineups here. Didn't land on as much Jermaine Kearse on FanDuel or Willie Snead just because it wasn't really necessary. If you played Nick Chubb on FanDuel, that pretty much allowed you to do whatever you want because FanDuel's salary is pretty loose. You can pretty much play whoever you want every week, it seems. But like in this lineup, my best lineup on FanDuel, I went Mayfield, Njoku, had Tariq Cohen, Nick Chubb, pretty much played those four guys. It allowed me to do whatever I wanted. Jarvis Landry was insanely cheap on FanDuel. Really liked him there. Adam Thielen, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Rams D for 23 fantasy points. Nice outing from the Rams D. But yeah, this was my best FanDuel lineup. We'll go through some of the other ones real quickly. Just look at some of my players I had on FanDuel. Pretty much stuck to the same on DraftKings, but a lot of the guys I had on DK that busted, I didn't have as much exposure to on FanDuel. But another Mayfield Njoku lineup here. Had that stack in a lot of lineups just because I thought it was a really strong stack. Another lineup with Tariq Cohen and Chubb at running back. Then had Snead, Gabriel, Thielen, Gurley at flex, and Rams D. But yeah, I kind of just stuck to the same core. Did have some Cousins on FanDuel. This lineup, Cousins to Thielen with Duke Johnson and Chubb in the same lineup. Willie Snead, Landry, Njoku, Gurley, Rams. So you can kind of see how at least the core I stuck to on FanDuel was mostly like a lot of Chubb, a lot of Gurley, a lot of Thielen, Njoku, a lot of Landry as well. Those are kind of the guys I'm stuck to in my core on FanDuel. But yeah, that was pretty much it for FanDuel. Played 150 in the dive. Wound up losing $2. Whatever. Move on to next week. But let's go ahead and move on to Yahoo and look at the 10 lineups I played over there. Another rough week on Yahoo. I think I only cashed like 2 lineups out of 10, or maybe even just 1 lineup out of 10. It's just a really rough week. Had so much Jermaine Kearse on Yahoo. He was so cheap. Same with Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke was way underpriced. Him and McCaffrey, I felt like were way underpriced on Yahoo, and they both put up really disappointing games. So that was kind of how the week went for me on Yahoo. So much McCaffrey, so much Zeke Elliott, so much Kearse. All 3 of those guys were really disappointing. As you can see here, McCaffrey, Zeke, Kearse combined for 16 fantasy points. Not really that good. Look at the next lineup. Didn't even get 100 fantasy points in this lineup, or 100 points total. Zeke 5, Gabriel 4, Kearse 0. Had some Dwayne Allen 2 with 0 fantasy points. Just a really, really rough week. I think this wound up being my best lineup. Yeah, this was the one lineup I did cash. This one had Mayfield to Njoku with Chubb, Tariq Cohen, Edelman, Tyler Boyd, Robert Woods, Todd Gurley, Washington D. But the rest of these lineups were pretty trash. Just same guys you see in a lot of my lineups. I usually stick to a really tight core. I stuck to a tight core of like Chubb, McCaffrey, Zeke, Jermaine Kearse, Njoku. That was kind of my core on Yahoo. And obviously, when your core disappoints, then you're going to have a rough week in general, and that was the case. So yeah, those are it for my Yahoo lineups. I think that's it for the reviews. So let's go ahead and look at the showdown slate for Monday Night Football. Got a game between the Falcons and the Giants. Should be a fun game to watch. Should be good for fantasy. Got a lot of good fantasy plays in this game. We'll just start off and look up tops. Go from the player pool, or like analyze the player pool from top to bottom. How we want to attack it. The guys we want to play. So Saquon Barkley for me is like the clear top guy on this showdown slate. He's 12K if you play him in your flex. If you play him in your captain, he's 18K. And he makes sense as a captain play. Against the Falcons, it's just such a good matchup for Barkley. This Falcons team has been getting crushed by running backs, especially running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. and Barkley can do just that. Last week against the Eagles, got 12 targets, got receiver targets, 4 targets against Carolina, 8 against New Orleans, 5 against Houston, 16 against Dallas, 6 against Jacksonville. He's going to get probably 5 to 10 targets. He's going to get 15, 20 carries, if that. So you're looking at probably at least 20 touches for Barkley, if not more. And like I said, great matchup. Falcons really struggle to defend running backs, especially pass-catching running backs. Love Barkley here. He's been a beast for fantasy all year, and I think that continues in this game. So he's probably my top overall play. Matt Ryan, you could obviously pay for if you wanted to in 11-2. It's going to be hard to play some of these top guys in a lot of your lineups because I'm not really seeing a ton of value I love. But Matt Ryan is definitely a guy I will consider paying up for at 11,200. Julio Jones I really like. He's 10.6. Odell Beckham is 10K. Obviously, if you can play both in the lineup, go ahead. If I have to choose one, I think I'm going to roll with Julio just because I like the spot better for Julio. He has a better quarterback. It's not a better matchup for Julio. Odell has the better matchup, but Julio at home with the better quarterback, I just really like. I think he's overall better fantasy player than Odell, a guy we can rely on a little bit more. Even though he's not scoring touchdowns, he's still getting a ton of targets, still getting a ton of yards. Can easily get 10 targets, 100 yards, or 10 catches, 100 yards, I should say. Can easily get 23, 24, 25 DK points. If he finds the end zone, you could be looking at a big game from Julio, 30, 35 DK points. So I like paying up for him. Plugging him in with Barkley is a route that I'm going to be doing. If I can fit in the quarterbacks, I will be trying to do that. But since I went with Barkley and Jones, it's going to be hard to play the quarterbacks with them, at least in this lineup. So let's kind of talk about some cheaper plays in this mid-range. If we want to go to guys here, there are guys you can go to. Tevin Coleman, I will probably have some exposure to. I'm not going to go too heavy, though, on Tevin Coleman just because he hasn't been that great with Devontae Freeman out. Him and Ito Smith have been splitting carries. Ito Smith has actually been getting a little bit more touches than Tevin Coleman has. Only reason Coleman was able to escape with a decent outing last week was because he got a late touchdown. It was looking like a really just disappointing game from Coleman last week. And he got that late touchdown to bring him to 11 DK points. He only got 11 touches last week. I think Ito Smith got 13. They both scored a touchdown, but Ito Smith, for cheaper, I think is the guy we want to go to if we're going to pick one of the running backs from Atlanta. Ito Smith's just been getting the same amount of work as Coleman, and he's $3,000 cheaper. He's scoring touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. With Devontae Freeman out, like I said, these guys have been splitting carries. Obviously, Coleman's probably the favorite to have more carries, but when you can get a guy for $3,000 cheaper that could wind up getting the most work, roll with Ito Smith here at $4,400. Definitely a cheap play I like that I can use to allow me to fit in the studs that I want on this slate. And like I said, at the top, there's a lot of good players we want to target. So playing Ito Smith will allow me to fit some of those guys in. But back to this mid-range, Calvin Ridley I'll probably be underweight on. Not a guy I'm going to go too heavy on, especially at 7K. I do like Sterling Shepard at 6,600. I will for sure have exposure to him. Mohamed Sanu as well. A guy that's actually been really consistent this year at 6,200. He is in play for me on this slate. He's been really consistent last 4 games, 15, 20, 17, 12 DraftKings points. Even though Julio's not scoring a ton of TDs, Sanu's been scoring touchdowns, 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Could probably add to that total and score another touchdown in this game. I don't mind pairing Ryan with Sanu if you want to do that in one of your showdown lineups. Maybe fade Julio, play Ryan Sanu, and then play like Barkley on the other side or play Odell on the other side. You could for sure do that. But now let's get down to the cheap plays. 6K and under the value. So we have both tight ends, Austin Hooper at 5,800 and Evan Ingram at 5K. If I have to choose one of these guys, I think both of them are in play. I'd probably choose Ingram, though, if I have to just pick one. He's $800 cheaper. I feel like he has the better matchup against the Falcons. The Falcons have been pretty bad this year at defending the tight end position. So I do like Ingram at 5K. I think he's in play as a cheap option. You have the kickers at 3,400 and 3,200 who you could look to for value. And then getting down to our punt plays, guys we're going to play just hoping they score a touchdown or hoping they get us 7-8 fantasy points. I think we do have options down here. So Russell Shepard is questionable. If he is able to play in this game, I do like him at 1,400, who you could play. If he is out, then Benny Fowler at 1,200 should be the number 3 receiver behind Odell and Sterling Shepard and Fowler should be on the field the most behind those two guys. If Shepard plays, then he's going to be the number 3 receiver. So anytime we can get a guy for cheap that's going to be on the field, I think we have to consider them. And Shepard and Fowler, if Shepard's in, he's going to be on the field plenty. If Shepard doesn't play, if he's out, then Benny Fowler should take his spot and be on the field at least enough snaps to where we'd want to play them. So at $1,400, $1,200, both of those guys are in play for me as cheap options. I think those are the two guys I like as punt plays. Marvin Hall, Wayne Gallman, I'll probably be shying away from. Don't really love any of the $1,000 plays and below on this slate. They just don't get enough work to where I would want to even consider them. They're just not on the field enough. So I think that is it for the Showdown slate, guys. I think that is it for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, and hopefully this video did help you. If you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. If you are new to the channel, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, make sure you do that as well. My Twitter is @thedfs_goat. Always tweeting about stuff related to fantasy. Always answering questions you guys have. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on Twitter, and I will reply to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, thank you for checking out the recap video, and good luck tonight on this Showdown slate. Peace.